Wow, it's Charles here with my very first Dead by Daylight perk breakdown video. These are meant to supply you with information needed to get the most out of your perks, or to arm you with essential knowledge to identify and play around perks your opponents might be using. Today we are looking at the Survivor perk Decisive Strike, a teachable perk from Laurie Strode. This perk is sometimes shortened to just Decisive, or more commonly referred to as just DS for short. Decisive Strike is an anti-tunnel perk, meant to give you a second chance if down shortly after being unhooked. Once per game, if you are grabbed or picked up by the killer within 60 seconds of being unhooked, you will get a chance to hit a skill check to break free from the killer's grasp and stun them for a short while to get away. If you do any action which progresses the game during those 60 seconds, Decisive Strike will disable and become unavailable for use. These actions include the following: healing yourself with a medkit or self-care, healing other survivors, repairing a generator, cleansing a totem, sabotaging a hook, or unhooking another survivor. If Decisive Strike was disabled from doing one of these prohibited actions, you will have a chance to use Decisive Strike if you are unhooked again later. Here are some things you can do which will not disable Decisive Strike. Be healed by another player, even to full health. Heal yourself using certain perks such as Inner Strength or Second Wind. Unlocking or searching a chest. Mending from borrowed time or a similar effect. Opening an exit gate. Getting into a locker. Interacting with any killer's powers such as disarming trappers' traps. Cleansing yourself from a plague's fountain. Uncaging someone from pyramid hedged cages, etc. Succeeding at the skill check does multiple things. First, you will stun the killer. This stun lasts for 5 seconds. Note that for the first second of this stun, your character will be falling off of the killer's shoulders, so from the time that you can move to the time that the killer can move, there's only about 4 seconds. Secondly, Decisive Strike will deactivate, meaning you will not get another chance to use this perk for the remainder of the trial. And lastly, you will become the Obsession if you are already not the Obsession. You can only attempt the skill check once per game. If you attempted but failed the skill check, Decisive Strike will also deactivate for the remainder of the trial. However, if you do not even attempt to hit the skill check on your first try, Decisive Strike will still be available to use after your second unhook if applicable. That is all the basic information for Decisive Strike for the survivor's point of view. Next, I'll explain things to watch out for and consider if you are playing killer and encounter this perk. Despite some nerfs, Decisive Strike is still a survivor perk that is commonly used. Because of this, you must assume that every survivor has it equipped. There is no easy way to determine if a survivor has Decisive Strike equipped or not beforehand. Perhaps you can make a guess based on how they play after being unhooked. This means that going after any survivor that was recently unhooked can end up backfiring. That being said, there are some things to keep in mind. If you see a recently unhooked survivor do any of the prohibited actions, most commonly being healing, unhooking, or repairing a generator, they will no longer have Decisive Strike available and are safe to pick up. Also, if a survivor already used DS previously, you can confidently pick them up after being unhooked for the remainder of the trial, since it will no longer be available to them. If you suspect a survivor has Decisive Strike but still want to pick them up, consider your environment and the direction you are facing while picking them up. For example, if you know there is a dead zone of no pallets to your left, make sure you pick up the survivor so that they will fall to your left into the dead zone. If they choose to run away from the dead zone, there is marginally more distance for them to run to go somewhere else. This counterplay becomes even stronger if you pick them up on a ledge. You can pick them up so that your left shoulder, the side which the survivor will be picked up on, is over the ledge. This way, it will make it so that if they do use Decisive Strike, they will lose time by falling further and staggering before being able to make an escape. Your stun time is still the same, so you'll be able to catch up to them faster, and they will not be able to make as much distance as normal. In this section, I do want to address any special cases, exceptions, interactions, or other things that I wasn't able to touch on before now. As explained earlier, there's no way to tell exactly if a survivor has DS or not from the killer's point of view. That being said, a survivor can do things that can make the killer think that they have DS. One example is to jump into a locker during a chase after being unhooked. By doing this, you are concluding the chase and the killer can choose to grab you out, thus forcing the Decisive Strike skill check. Even if you don't have Decisive Strike, this can make the killer think that you have the perk and they may leave you alone. A killer who has the perk Enduring, which normally decreases a stun time from dropped pallets, will have no effect on the stun duration from Decisive Strike. The stun will still be the full 5 seconds. Combining this perk with another perk, Unbreakable, will make it so that after being unhooked and downed, the killer will still have to decide between picking you up and eating the Decisive Strike, or leaving you on the ground to recover quickly and eventually you'll be able to pick yourself up. A very potent combination. Even if your DS is still active, you may have to make the decision to do any action to progress the game, which will disable the perk. Sometimes your team will be in a position where they need your help, or sometimes the killer will just go for another survivor anyways. This perk is particularly strong at the end of the game if you're one of the last survivors to be unhooked. In this situation, all you may have to do is run directly towards a hopefully open exit gate, and if you are downed, you can crawl the rest of the way. If you are able to crawl to the gate before the 60-second timer expires, the killer will be forced to pick you up, and if you still have Decisive Strike, you can hit the skill check and escape. Keep in mind, successfully hitting the Decisive Strike skill check will make you the Obsession, which may change the killer's habits. If you notice throughout the game that they have certain perks like Nemesis, Save the Best for Last, or Furtive Chase, just to name a few, they might choose to go after you more or less depending on what their goal is. Just hope that they don't have Rancor, because you may not have known that until it's too late. And that about wraps up this perk breakdown for Decisive Strike. You should be ready now to maximize its usage should you equip it, or to minimize its impact if you are playing as killer versus a survivor that has it. Please, if you know someone or have a friend that wants to learn more about Dead by Daylight, share this video with them so that they can quickly catch up on all there is to know, so they can spend less time researching and more time playing. Hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.